guys, back with part 2 of this little of the little faux book that I started doing in the earlier video tutorial and sort of ran out of time. I want to show you quickly how I decorated with all the flowers and bits and bobs that I put on it. So what you'll need is your base of your box, faux box prepared, and watch that first video and I'll show you how to do that. Some designer series paper for the covers. Now you can do a front and a back cover. It's up to you what you'd like to do, but those ones are cut at 4 by 5 inches. You'll need some lengths of ribbon, about 2 lengths and 7 inches for your closure. You'll need some sort of decoration for the front, some saying or something. I'm going to use this laughter definition here, and then I'm going to it's cut with the second smallest framelit, and I have done a video tutorial earlier on how to do the matting around that using extra bits of your framelits. So have a look at that matting for framelits if you're not sure, but I'm going to put that together. I've just cut some round tabs in half because I'm going to use that to secure my ribbon. I've got some Spice Cake designer series fabric, which is going to make the little flowers. You'll need extra brads, buttons, and linen thread, and also a sewing needle and thread, and I'll show you how to make those little flowers. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do, guys, is you're just going to put your closure on. Now you will need some double-sided tape to put the ribbon in place, because you do want a pretty good attachment of your ribbon. Remember, it's going to get most of the strain from opening and closing it, so use some double-sided tape. I just sort of stick it there-ish. Now you can go all central if you want to, which I think I might have to because it bothers me a little bit. So I just put my ruler down, and then I put my ribbon and stick it on so that I know that it's in the center of my front of my box. I'm just going to get normal snail to adhere the DSP in place so that it covers up that ribbon on the front. Now if you're putting a piece of pretty paper on the back, you do exactly the same process for this that you did the front. So ribbon on first and then your cover on. I'm going to go with just a little bit of decoration, minimal decoration on the back. So I'm just going to add a little tab to hide my ribbon attachment. So just a bit of double-sided tape, a little piece on my ribbon, another piece on the back of my round tab that I'm going to use to cover it. The ribbon on the front's a good guide as to where the back one's going to go, so you sort of just want to line it up over the top so that they meet. And then this little half round tab is a great little cover to go over the ribbon, and you can put that on the back then, and it hides that ribbon pretty well. Now I'm making a mess. Okay, so that tab's not down real well. Let's put another bit of tape, because like I said, that's the pressure point for your box. So let's do that. Much happier. Now if you want it to be really, really tricky, you could always put your ribbon under first between those book layers if you really wanted to, but I sometimes forget, obviously, like I did just then. Okay, so that's that part of it. We're going to have our label here. I'll quickly just do this. Okay guys, then you're just going to dimension this up. And I've been busted using scrap cardstock. You can see the old printing that I've got on the back of that one. But that's a good thing. Cardstock has 2 sides, so you can always reuse those disasters on other projects. As long as it's not on the inside, no one even knows. Alright, so just dimension that little saying up, guys. And I'm just going to pop that centrally. My box. Okay, time for the flowers. Alright, so for the flowers on the top, on the outside of the box rather, we're going to use some Stampin' Up! Fabric. Now, often when I get fabric out and I get things like needle and thread out, people automatically turn off because they're not sewers. Well, stay with me guys if you can, because it's really not a sewing task. It is quite straightforward. You do need a needle and thread. You do need some bits of fabric. Now I'm using the Spice Cake fabric that from Stampin' Up, which I love. But you really, you could use any fabric to do this, but it matches with our designer series paper, so that's why I'm going to use it today. So we're going to make 2 of these fabric flowers. Now, I've seen other people make these, so these are not my idea, but this is my take on how to do it. This sort of torn one around here is really fun to make, and I'll show you how to do that, as well as these yo-yos, and people might already know how to make yo-yos. They're quite easy to do. So we're going to make 2 though. One for the inside is going to be an actual brooch, so we're going to put a safety pin on the back and a bit of felt to make it a pin, and then we're going to put another one on the front. So this is the one for the inside, so I'll show you how I did that by showing you the one we're going to make for the outside. So you're going to need a piece of fabric about 3 1/4 inches square, and we're going to use our circles number 2 die to cut ourselves out the 2.5 inch circle from that. So then you're going to need a length of cotton and a needle. So it's really quite straightforward, guys. It's not too complicated. I always start with the pattern side up, and basically all we're going to do is go around the outer edge as close as we can to the outer edge, and I'll show you close up, maybe that would be easier. Whoops, wrong way. All I'm doing, guys, is going up and down around that outside edge. Pretty boring, pretty simple. So I thread a few onto my needle, and then when it gets a bit full, kind of you can pull that needle through and starts to gather on there, and you just keep continuing around. Okay, you don't need to see this in slow motion, so we'll fast forward till I've gone right around the circle. Okay guys, so we've gone right around the edge of the circle, and you can see this is a bit of thread left over from where I started pulling the thread through around the outside of the circle. This is where I've ended up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab both sets of threads together in one hand, turn the piece of fabric over so that the wrong side is facing up, put my finger in the middle of that wrong side and give a pull on both thread pieces. All right, so now I've got this little pouch. Take my finger out because it's kind of forming on its own, and then just give it a bit of a squish together. Now what you want to do then is push the center down, and there's your start of your yo-yo. It's pretty easy, isn't it? So all I'm going to do now is take these 2 ends that I've got. Now there are people who do fancy things like put stitches and stuff through. I'm just going to tie a knot in the end. Well, not 1 knot, 2 to be honest. So I'm just going to pull that tight and tie 2 knots. You with me so far? Hope so. It's not sewing, trust me. All right, so there we go. So 2 knots in the end of the thread, and you've just got these little puckery pouchies, and you've made yourself a little yo-yo. Now you could just use the plain circle if you want, but the gathering is what we're really after. So all you have to do, get your paper snips or your nice ribbon scissors, which I probably should be using, snip off the ends of that thread. Now you could, if you wanted to, in this example here, I've put a bit of twine, not twine, baker's, what is baker's twine, through a button and put the button in the middle of the yo-yo. This little yo-yo here, I've just put one of our larger white vanilla brads through that. For the front of our box, I'm going to be a bit trickier. I'm going to put a bit of Pill Party seam binding ribbon into the back of one of these same brads, and then all I'm going to do is put it, there's kind of a little hole where we've gathered the yo-yo together. All I'm going to do is push the ends of the brad through there and out the back of the yo-yo. Can you see them there? And then I'm just going to separate the brad like I normally would. Ah, pretty. And now I've got myself a little bow on the top of my yo-yo. Oh, loving it. Okay, so that's a yo-yo. You can make them whatever size you want. The general rule is, guys, you have a circle twice as large as the finished yo-yo that you want to make. So our yo-yo is about 1 1/8 inches wide because we started with a circle that was 2 1/4 inches. So the bigger the circle, the bigger the yo-yo, but it's always going to be the half of the diameter that you start with is going to be your finished yo-yo size. Okay, so that's the yo-yo done. We'll move that to the side. Now we're going to do, and I need to zoom out for this one to show you what I mean. Now we're going to make the bit around the outside this sort of fluffy outer piece. And I've certainly seen people do this, and the basic way I start is exactly the same as you might have seen before. I've just got a 1 1/4 inch strip of fabric here, and all I've done is taken the width that the Stampin' Up! Fabric already is. Let's see if I can show you what I've done. Basically, then I cut a little nick at 1 1/4 inches, and then I just tear off a strip. So it just gives myself a little torn strip, and you'll see that this edge is where I've torn it all. Now I've seen people go along with their scissors and nice and neatly chop one at a time, and then come back and chop angles on the little segments that they chop. I'm a little bit lazier than that, and I'll show you what I do. So what I do is grab myself my Stampin' Up! Scissors that I use only for ribbon or fabric, and then I grab the strip that I've torn, and basically all I'm going to do is fold it in half. Voila. Fold it in half again. So now I've got 4 pieces, it's in quarters. Then I'm going to fold it in half again. So now it's got 8 layers there. And then fold it in half one last time. Now this makes a piece that is roughly about 1 inch wide that I'm dealing with. Now I've got one end that's jiggy-jaggy and one end that's the cut edge that I started with. If you do start with a flat edge, make sure you're going to use your cut edge as your fray bit here. And all I actually did, I don't like to cut them individual. Like I said, if there's an easy way, I want to do it. I want to take my scissors and I place it halfway, so 1/2 inch either side of those blades, and I'm going to cut almost all the way through, but not all the way through. I think I've done it there. So I'm going to cut, can you see that? I've cut right down to, I don't know, what's that, 1/2-ish, 1/4 inch at the bottom. And that's my segments that I'm going to keep in my, keep my flowers to that sort of size. Now you'll notice on one side, I've got all layers of the fabric on one edge there, and I'm just going to put my scissors in the middle of that, and I'm just going to cut down to the same depth as I did the other one. So now I've cut through that way. So let me cut this middle one a little bit further without cutting my fingers, because that would be sad. Okay, happier with that. All right, cut it down there. I've cut down that side edge. Over this edge, you'll notice that there's quite a few different folds, like a few different half moony sort of shapes. Not moons, I don't know what they are, little mountains. And we're just going to cut down each one of those. That one's already cut, and that one there. Okay, so now I've got all of my little edge pieces cut. Okay, so that's just Tanya's lazy way of cutting a length of fabric so that you've got all these little segments there, which are going to be our petals of our leaves. Now you could if you want to, and I've certainly seen other people sit there and just cut them one at a time, and then they come back and cut little angles on them, which is all very pretty, but way too time consuming for me. All right, so what I'm going to do, once I've got my piece all cut like that, cut it however you like, I'm going to bring my needle and thread, yes, we need needle and thread again, back into view. And all I'm going to do is exactly the same as I was doing for the yo-yo, though really complicated sewing, up and down, starting at one end and working our way all the way to the other end. So starting at one end, and we're just going to go down and up all the way along. Now I'll zoom in, which I can never get right. Here we go. I'm going to zoom in And fast forward this, same principle as with the yo-yo though, guys. Get a few on there, onto your needle, and then, you know, you can push them off onto the cotton thread. And then just keep going till the whole thing's done. All right. Okay guys, so I've got all the way to the end. It's not hard. Is it time consuming? Well, I'm not going to lie, yeah, it is a bit time consuming. And you really want to make sure you sort of go up and down pretty close together, just so that it gives it a really nice little gather. If you sort of leave your stitches far apart, you'll end up with less of a gather, but tighter together makes it look pretty. Takes a little bit of time, yes, I agree. But it's worth it in the end, because all we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to gather this together, and the same principle as the yo-yo that I just showed you. We're going to sort of grab both ends, squish them together, and sort of play with it as you go around, I suppose. We're just going to make a little circular piece. Now again, you can do fancy tie thready thingies, but yes, that is the technical term, but I'm just going to knot them together because I'm all up for that technical sewing biz. Happy with that. I can zhuzh it a bit before we're finished. So I just tied those two ends, guys. 1 knot, 2 knots, nothing but fancy for me. All right, so there we go. There's our little flower that I've created. We're calling it a flower. There. Okay, so you can zhuzh with it and give it a fluff and a fuss when you're done. Now, the best way I find to throw all this together is I like to actually get out my trusty hot glue gun and glue it all together. I'm just going to do 1 more knot, guys, because I don't know how well I did then. Okay, I'm happy with that. All right, so then let's chop off that thread like that, and voila, you've got a nice little fluffy little layer there. So a little bit of hot glue, guys, just to put the yo-yo in the center, and then a little bit of hot glue on the back, and then we're just going to hot glue this to the front of our little faux booklet. And you've noticed that since I showed you the video where this went on, I've moved it up a little bit to fit our flower on. I'll show you a picture of that finish, but that's basically how it's going to look. And then to make the badge that's going to go, the brooch that's going to go on the inside of our gift box, exactly the same as the one I've just shown you. All I've gone ahead and done is cut out a circle of felt, just from some felt from the craft store, again using the circles number 2 die, and this one's just the little, I'm pretty sure it's the 1 inch, yeah, the 1 inch little circle of felt, and I've just stuck it down with hot glue, again my favourite adhesive for this sort of stuff. I've got a safety pin, which are really cheap and easy. You can buy brooch fixtures if you really want to, but look, a safety pin works just as well. And on the fixed side of the safety pin, I just glue that down with hot glue and lay the piece of felt on the top of that. So can you see what I mean by the fixed side, the side that's not got the stabby on it? And then you can just thread it through your clothing and pierce it on, or you can thread it over a headband, wear it in your hair, whatever you like to do. Basically then that's all it is for decorating those, and that's our little gift box, our faux box and brooch tutorial. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Bye.